Thank you for joining me. My name is Rocky. I am with Chronicle Cemetery Software. I am a North American account manager, and this is our version of the software for the fall of 2023. We have had a very productive year at Chronicle. We have doubled our staff since January. We've put a ton of resources into R&D, research and development. And if you've seen our software before, there's probably going to be some new bells and whistles that have been added in the last 6 months. And if you haven't seen it, well, I hope you're impressed. So let's get started. And this is a map of all of our clients that are in North America. We're sitting at about 100, a little over 100 right now. We've got a couple hundred more in Australia. And so with our clients, I talk about cemeteries, and if you're watching this, you probably have a couple problems that you're hoping to solve. You want to keep track of who is buried where. You want to know what your cemetery's capacity is, and you want a repository for all the records on the interred in your cemetery and who owns the lots. So we're going to kick it off by solving those problems, and then after that, I'm going to introduce you to the concept of a digital headstone, which is totally new and is an additional revenue stream for the cemetery if you want to take advantage of it. So for our clients, if anybody ever calls them and says, I'm looking for my deceased loved one, there's a couple ways that they can answer that question. And the first one is what Battle Creek has done here. This is out of Battle Creek, Michigan, and they built this website outside of us. They host it outside of us. I have nothing to do with this website, but if you call them, they'll say, hey, go to our website, click on deceased search, and click on the online map. So now we are leaving their website and we are landing on their cemetery in Chronicle software. And something I want to point out to you is if you look up here at the top, we're in a browser. So this is truly a cloud-based software. It's available anywhere, anytime, on any device. It'll work on your Android, your iPhone, your desktop. If you've got a tablet, it'll work there. As long as you've got a connection to the internet, you're in business. And we're looking at their cemetery, and you'll notice that there's different colors. So what the colors mean is defined right here. So green means that these are available. So I can sell these. Nobody owns them. Yellow means it's reserved. So somebody has purchased these, but nobody is buried there yet. And the blue indicates that somebody's buried here. And if I zoom in, I can see who's there. So this is the Gilberts. There's a coding and another coding. Looks like a bunch of codings right through here. And so what we did is when we initially started working on their cemetery, we sent somebody out with a drone and they flew the drone over the cemetery, and that's where we get this high def image. Then what happens is we manually have somebody come back through and they hand draw every single plot one at a time. So if we were searching for somebody specifically, we could type in their name up here. And let's say I'm looking for a Johnson. Let's say Albert's the guy we're looking for. So when I click on him, it's going to take me right to his grave. So there we go. This is where Albert Johnson is buried. And we can see that he was 66 years old and was interred at 7. Now, what's really cool is if we were in the cemetery on our smartphone, then the GPS would kick in and we would see this destination and zoom out so we would see ourselves as a blinking dot. And as we walk to the grave, we'll see ourselves getting closer and closer, just like with Google Maps when you're going to the store. So let's go take a look at my demo cemetery because we've got all the bells and whistles turned on this one. And let's talk about the next way that the public can find their loved one. So you can put up a sign. We will give you a QR code. People can walk up with their phone, take a picture of the QR code. That will automatically load this page. And then they can do their search, and this will get them to their destination. So let's see what we've got over here. So here are some people who have digital headstones. That's what's rotating through. And a digital headstone, we'll get into that here in just a minute, but I also want to point out that we can buy plots from right here. And if we zoom in, we can find some plots that are for sale. Yep, here's one for $2,200. If I wanted to buy this plot, I could click on it, and when I click on this, it'll request my information, and we can either charge the credit card right here and purchase it for $2,200, or we can make this send you an email, and then you can call and sell them the old-fashioned way over the phone. But let me show you our walking tours. So what a walking tour is, these are graves, groups of graves that all have something in common that we think people would want to see. So maybe you've got World War I, World War II, survivors of the Titanic, town founders, whatever you have. What will happen is you'll put the tour right here, and if I click on it, it is automatically going to take me to the first stop on my tour, which is Princess Buttercup here. And you'll notice down here that it says create a memorial. So this is where I'm going to differentiate myself from the competitors. What this is if I click on this, I can create what we call a digital headstone chronicle, but I can upload photos. I can tell her story. I could upload videos. Give us a few months. This will integrate with social media, so I could link to her Facebook. And what we're doing here is, if this was my mother, I could go over here, create the memorial. It would charge my credit card, so I'd enter my credit card number. And what we're doing is we are charged $35 for each one of these. Cemetery can mark it up to whatever they want. So most cemeteries are making it $100 to $200 for each one of these. And if you marked it up to $135, then the cemetery would make $100 on each one of these. So it's an additional revenue stream. And something else that I want to point out is that we are a perpetual care digital cemetery. What that means is we will never take down your site on purpose. In other words, let's say that it's 50 years from now, this is your cemetery, it's entirely sold out, there's nowhere else to put anybody, the cemetery dissolves, the office dissolves, bottom line is we send a bill and for whatever reason it does not get paid. What's going to happen with our competitors is the site would be unplugged, and that's pretty much the end of it until the bill is paid. With us, everything that I've shown you so far, the maps, the stories, the pictures, where people are buried, all of that remains as is, but the cemetery can no longer log in, which I haven't even shown you what it looks like when we log in. But by not being able to log in, it means you can't run reports and you can't bury new people. But who cares? It's 50 years from now, you guys are sold out, there's no one to be buried anyway. So this should be up for perpetuity. And if we come over here, so we can see that there's a grave for sale right there for $2,500. This one has a little icon, and what that means is somebody has filled out a story on this lady. Over here, we've got a different icon. It's a dog tag. What this means is this guy is a veteran. So yeah, we can see that they were a veteran. So let's log in now and see what the back end of the software looks like. So again, everything that you've seen so far is the public view. So you can't see who owns plots from that view. Now we get the real insight on what's happening in the cemetery. So we'll notice over here, everything looks pretty similar, except now we've got a control panel. And down here, we've got our statistics on the cemetery. We can see how many total plots there are, how many we still have to sell, how many total are interred in our cemetery. And over here, it says access. So again, this is something that's different from us versus the competitors. We give you unlimited users. So that means the board, all of the people who work in the cemetery, the grave digger, the monuments guy, the florist, the funeral director, everybody can have a username and a password and be able to log in here. But let's say the funeral director, you want him to be able to log in and search for plots, but you don't want him to be able to bury somebody. Right here in access is where you could restrict what he can do. So he can search, but he cannot bury someone. Events. This is our calendar for everything that we have going on in the cemetery this month. So we can see that we are doing a flower delivery, there's a funeral, there's a sales meeting, we're watering the lawn, mowing, headstone is ordered. But it's one spot that everybody can go to for the calendar of everything that's happening in the cemetery this month. Reports. Once we have the data in here, we can slice and dice it any way you want to see it. If you wanted to see everybody who was buried last year, go into the internments, select all sections, and then select your date range, say from December to January. And then you can pick what you want it to output. So I want the plot ID, I want the name, I want the date. And when you click generate, it will create a PDF or an Excel spreadsheet. Additionally, we can do it with our rights of interment. And what a right of interment is, depending on where you are in the country, you may call it a right of interment or an ROI, or you may call it a deed and a deed holder. It's the same thing, but for our terminology, we're calling it the right of interment. So every time you see ROI or right of interment, that is who owns the plot. So maybe you wanted to do an annual newsletter so you can go get your rights of interment, and we want the email address and the person's name, and then we could dump that into Excel and then go send out a mail blast. So let's take a look at a plot. So we're going to check out Kristen. And here she is, and let's check out our information. So we can see that Kristen Corrington-Amman and Susan Corrington-Amman are both buried in the same plot. And let's find out about Kristen. So if I go to Edit Interment, and then click on Deceased Person, I can see who she was. I can see her date of birth and her date of death, and when we add those dates, it will automatically calculate our age. We can also keep track of her religion. These are customizable fields. You don't have to use them, but I want to show you that you can put them in there. Some cemeteries keep track of cause of death and occupation, but again, these are customizable fields, so you can make them say whatever you want. If she was a veteran, we would click on Return Service Person. This is her last known address. More customizable fields. Maybe I want to keep track of branches of the military or which wars she was in. There's a text field and a numerical field, so I could enter that. We also have switches. So again, this is a customizable field. This particular cemetery is wanting to keep track of founding members of the church. Interment detail. I can see that she is buried 3 feet down. She was cremated. She is in an urn, and the urn is located in the back of the plot. We can also keep track of the container dimensions, and we've got a spot for notes as well. Down here is where we have her story. So I already showed you the digital headstones that the public can purchase. The cemetery has their own free version that they can upload as well. You just fill in this information. We can go click and grab the picture we want to upload. And there we go. Down here at the bottom is a spot for documents. This is deeds, receipts, any sort of paperwork that reside or that you want to keep track of regarding Kristen would be uploaded right here. Up at the top, we can create certificates. So this is where you can make your deeds or your receipts or work orders, and they are all customizable. If I click on this, I will have built a template already, and it will automatically take the information from over here and populate it into the template. Here's where I can see who applied for it. If I track the funeral director, I would see it right here. Here's our next of kin. Here's the funeral minister who did the funeral. And let's find out a little bit more about this plot. So you'll notice up here, this cemetery allows 5 people per plot, and it is restricted to 3 graves and 2 urns. And we can see here that there are 2 people in urns and there are 0 coffins, caskets. Over here in the ROI, that is who owns this plot, and she bought it for $2,500 in 2004. Of this plot. So it looks like there was a sales meeting in April of 2004. We prepared the grave 2 days later. And then the funeral happened 3 days after that in 2004. There was a flower delivery in 2007. And it looks like Kristen was added to the plot in 2010. And that is Chronicle Cemetery software. It's very simple, easy to use. It's very affordable. We'd love to talk to you about some pricing. If you can give us a call at 469-908-3731, I'd be happy to talk to you about what your specific needs are and get into more detail.